Welcome to Lacrosse Classified, your go-to source for all things NLL and box lacrosse. We will bring you the biggest names and best storylines in the world every single week. So settle down and listen up. It's time for Lax Class.
What's up, lacrosse fans? Welcome back. Lax Class is underway. 363, Jake Kelly, Lucas Archer, and big program lineup for you this week. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's just tell them what's coming up here on the program. Off the top, big focus coming up. We'll take a look at maybe a few of the bigger storylines coming out of week 1, week 2 of training camp here in the National Lacrosse League. We will talk about the Goalie Factory as well here in the first quarter. Quarter number 2, we're going to have the Commissioner of the National Lacrosse League, Brett Frood. We got this one in the can already, and just settle in here. Grab some coffee. It is a long conversation with Brett Frood. Hope you enjoy. Look forward to that in quarter number 2, and then we'll button it up in the second half with a quick Lax Class lock of the week and a little check-in in who you got in quarter number 4, kind of maybe lay out some of the rules. And we're staying away from the NFL in quarter number 3 this week. Just a disaster on the lock of the week last week. So we're going to take a look at some NLL futures for lock of the week this week. So big program lined up. And Lucas, what's going on? Did you get another haircut?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I just haven't put a hat on today, so it looks a little nicer.
How's it going?
It's going good, man. Had a good weekend. Spent some time out in Brampton Memorial Arena. I think you've been there yourself a little bit.
Oh,
that small barn.
1993, Lucas, back there with the Coquitlam Junior Adnax. We were playing the Orangeville Northmen, but we did not stay in Orangeville. I don't even think they had a hotel in the town of the Ville or the Ville of the Ville back in the early 90s. So we stayed in like this, and classic Northman style, I might add, in this industrial park travel lodge in Brampton. And then we drove 45 minutes to practice and all the rest of it. So one day out of that week, we did go to Brampton Memorial. Long story short, not so short. Did get a practice in at Memorial Arena in Brampton. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's where I was. I'm sure it's changed a little bit in the couple full moons it's been since you've set foot inside that arena. But I was there with the Firewolves. They had a couple practices, good runs this weekend. I also saw the Bandits practicing there as well. So first look at, how old is he now? 43, 44-year-old Matt Vince. I don't know how old he is, but he was there at camp along with all the other faces of the Bandits. So it was a good weekend out there with them. And
I know you're not a fan of the Maple Leafs, but you are a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. I noticed how you kind of just avoided that whole topic. Should we talk about Game 7?
We can talk about
Series?
that. It was
okay. Like, baseball fan or not, like that was some of the best sports viewing I've ever done for any sport. Like I keep, and I'm not invested. Like I could have cared less who won the World Series. Like I was like, Dodgers, like really good team, a lot of money on that team. Shohei's sick player. Like Dodgers are a cool team as far as I'm concerned. They got a couple former Red Sox on there too. For the Blue Jays, I was like, yeah, like great for the country, like being a proud Canadian. I was kind of like, yeah, like if the Blue Jays win, it'll be cool for Canada. It would have been okay. But just sitting back and watching that game and all the things that transpired in it, in particular in the late innings of that game, like, oh my God, like you could never just be able to sit down and tell somebody about that game. They'd have to watch it to actually feel and understand everything that happened in that game.
You went through the roller coaster of emotions. You thought you were going to win it when Ernie Clement hit it to deep left field. You thought that bringing Jeff Hoffman in,
the ball getting stuck under the wall, the crazy catch in center field, like it just one thing after
there was
another.
So many different things that just made you watching. At the end of the day, it was your former Red Sox, Mookie Betts, that ended it with a 6-3 double play to end the ball game. And
That the e-transfer took a little longer than I would have liked to show up, but it did
it
eventually.
made its
So
way there.
it's lacrosse season, baby. We are just what we're talking 24 days until National Lacrosse League season begins. Training camps are all well underway, and this coming week, I believe most teams, maybe aside from Vancouver, will be playing exhibition games as well. So we're getting close. Let's not waste any more time. Let's talk some lacrosse, and let's do it in the Big Focus.
Big focus.
Big focus.
Focus. Other than a big focus.
Focus.
Big focus.
Big focus. Big focus.
Big focus. Big focus. Big focus. Big focus. Big focus.
Big Focus is brought to you by Rycor Construction. Can't wait to have our Rycor Standout Players of the Week back. Can't wait to have our Goalie Factory Goalie of the Week back. We're almost there. But for now, Rycor Construction is sponsoring the Big Focus. They make it stand out. The Big Focus can stand out as well. Renovations, that's what they specialize in, whether it be fences, kitchens, bathrooms, full home rooms. I've been saying this for a while. Well, Casa Jumbo here is just about due for, maybe long overdue if you ask Danny, for a renovation. And I know where I'm going when it's time to make it happen. The choice is clear. The choice is simple. www.rycorconstruction.ca. That's where you're going. And if you want to kind of poke around on their website, you can do that. Their contact information is there. But if you want to see the work that they're doing, go to Instagram or Facebook and check out Rycor Construction Inc. And all it's going to do when you go there, well, give them a follow for one, but it's going to reassure and affirm everything that I just told you. They make it stand out at Rycor Construction. They're making it stand out here on the Big Focus as well, Lucas. And, not a heavy news cycle week, I would say, but still some things going on. We saw another couple of minor trades. We saw this Mitch DeSnoo situation still in flux. I kind of heard Philly is got the upper hand in this. He's probably going to remain a Philadelphia Wing for the time being, but maybe something gets worked out after that. There's been whispers of Jack Hanna wanting to maybe play in Colorado this season, or maybe get paid a little more to stay in Las Vegas. So I think there's something going on there with Jack Hanna. Heard Tyler Pace has not reported to the Calgary Roughnecks as of yet either. Not sure what the situation is there. Another guy, DJ breaking the story, Chris O'Riglieri, not at San Diego Seals camp due to firefighting training and potential probation. So a lot of big names in this league not at camps for their respected teams.
Yeah, definitely. We know that O'Rig is away due to work relations, and hope he gets through his firefighting training shortly, and who knows if he's able to get hired. And then
just on that, Lucas, for people that maybe don't quite understand how that process works. So he's in training, he passes his training, then he's going to be eligible to be hired. How quickly he gets hired is one thing, and then it's pretty much standard for when you are hired on at a fire department. You go through at least 6 months. I think it can be up to a year of probation where you just can't do anything else that is going to maybe potentially be cause for injury. And lacrosse being a really physical and demanding sport, you can't play lacrosse. So you have to take the time off. It's part of their initiation into the fire department. Like, it's just a black and white thing where you can't, some halls will lessen the time a little bit, but for most guys, it's going to be a full season that you're going to miss. And how quickly Chris gets hired, if he gets through his training, we'll just have to wait and see. But man, oh man, That you just I don't know how you overcome just losing your starting goaltender if you're the San Diego Seals. Those other guys, I think those are kind of different situations.
DeSnoo down in Philly, it's interesting. Obviously, we know that the Wings will probably retain his rights, and then we hope that he
Well,
should report to camp, but
yeah, like I don't know, Lucas, because when he got dealt there, he knew his situation, right? Which was he was going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Now that situation, the new CBA has kind of thrown a big loop into this. We don't know how it's going to quite shake down, but I would think Mitch going to Philadelphia, knowing that he could probably go back or go wherever he wanted after the season, played into him being traded there in the first place. And now Philadelphia might be able to just retain his rights, and whether Mitch wants to be there or not then becomes the question. And for Hannah, like he lives in Denver, he works in Denver, a lot of things going on in Denver for Jack Hanna, and life would be a whole lot easier playing for the Mammoth, I think, for Jack Hanna. But pretty early in a career to start calling shots as well, in my opinion. And Vegas is not just going to roll over and, here, sure, no problem. Like that's not the way this situation is going to work. So the return is going to be a big one for Vegas because they have the control in this situation. And for Pace, I think this is like the second time in the last 3 years that he is not reported to training camp. He did get it done and showed up and started playing at some point early in the regular season. I want to say a couple years ago. They franchised him. He's not at training camp. And I don't know what the situation is there. I don't know any more than that.
we'll keep all the listeners updated on what's going on around the league. We know a couple teams were off of camp this past weekend, but I believe everybody's in action this coming weekend. And we got some exhibition games coming up, if I'm not mistaken, Jumbo. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a couple coming up at the track. Vancouver is actually off this weekend, and then they'll play their 2 exhibition games the 2 following weeks. But most teams will be at camp. A lot of exhibition games will be going down. Keep an eye on NLL Plus for the Rock games. I know that, and I'm thinking Vancouver will throw theirs up as well. I need a little practice. It's been a while, so wouldn't mind calling an exhibition game. All right, that's the big focus. Let's jump right over to the Factory of Goalies and Goalie Factory Goalie of the Week.
Big save, Chiliano. Rebound call, Crime Stoppers.
Vince just scored a goalie goal.
Jameson somehow comes up with the stop.
Larceny.
And here's Shane Jackson off the bench. And there's Christian Del Bianco with a stick side save. Goalie Factory Goalie of the Week brought to you by the Goalie Factory, of course. And I'm not sure if we mentioned it or not, but Caleb Kahn of the Goalie Factory, Lucas, from all reports, had a pretty good weekend down there for Las Vegas. So why don't we just make the boss, one of the bosses of the Goalie Factory, Caleb Kahn, this week's Goalie Factory Goalie of the Week.
Great weekend down there, I heard. Definitely stole the spotlight a little bit. He's also so young. That's what fans got to remember. He is a young player, or goalie, 18. I should say, that declared for the draft and taken late in the first round. If he continues to play that the way he's been playing in the summer up in Langley, Jake, he's going to have a bright future ahead of him down there with the Desert Dogs.
Well, dominated Junior A, held his own and then some in Senior A, and sounds to be off to a good start in Las Vegas as well. And listen, not only is this guy running the Goalie Factory and helping other young goalies get better, go check him out at Goalie Factory _. For all your sign up and informational needs, Riley Brown, Caleb and Marcus Kahn, Curtis Armstrong. But this guy, like, he's one of those guys where his sole focus is playing lacrosse. Like, that is what he wants to do. That's what he wants to be. And that is his every waking moment kind of thing. His life is geared towards being a professional box lacrosse goalie. And when you got a kid at 18 with that kind of vision and drive and passion to do it, and then you stack the talent that he's got on top of that, look out.
No doubt. He's definitely got the potential. He has a huge ceiling, and I know that he's only going to get better. Obviously, it's a big adjustment going from the junior to the senior ranks to the professional ranks, but I don't see why he wouldn't excel and be successful.
Go work with Caleb and his brother Marcus at the Goalie Factory at Goalie Factory _. You can do it in person out there in Langley, or you can even do it over the old Zoom as well. Check them out at Goalie Factory _. All right, let's clear the runway and let's move on to quarter number 2, and let's have a long chat with the boss of the National Lacrosse League. Commissioner Brett Frood joins us next. Stay classified.
This is NLL Hall of Famer Paul Gate. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified, your go-to source for all things NLL and box lacrosse.
Welcome back to Lax Class. We are into quarter number 2 here on episode 363. And as always, quarter number 2 brought to you by Edge Dynamics. And they are passionate about supporting communities and driving growth, just like our next guest. They're based out of Alberta. They partner with nonprofits and small businesses to deliver sharp marketing strategies that make an impact. Sounds pretty good to me. They understand the challenges of limited resources and are there to help you succeed, whether it's growing the fastest game on 2 feet or strengthening your organization. They're with you every step of the way. Visit edgedynamics.ca and sharpen your brand on a global level as we welcome back the commissioner of the National Lacrosse League, hired back in 2022. So going into year 3 here. And coming off a pretty contentious CBA negotiations, the season just ahead of us here down the road as we welcome back, as we always do here before the start of the season, Brett Frood back on Lax Class. Brett, good to see you. Thanks for doing this. How are things?
Hey guys, glad to be on. Good to talk. It means we're getting close to the beginning of the season, right?
Absolutely. And I know training camps are well underway, and we're going to get some exhibition games coming up here as well. But first and foremost, I probably should say thank you for helping steer the ship across the finish line as far as the CBA goes. I know that was some heavy lifting for you, the board, the Players Association, Reed and Zach. Kind of got down to right to the wire, but you guys got it done. You got to be relieved of that fact.
Yeah, certainly nice to be ready to prepare for the season now. It was a long several months, but I think we were all confident we would get it done. I think, as you know, we deal with visas, and because we're a true North American sport and Americans traveling up and Canadians traveling down, it does put a little more, I'd say, difficulty relative to the time constraints because of that. We're ready to roll now, though.
Now that you've got the CBA in place, there's a lot of good things on the horizon happening this year, Brett. And we'll start out in Edmonton. I think it's January 16th is the date for the Unboxed game. Talk a little bit about that and what fans in Edmonton can expect.
Well, I don't know, Jake, have you been there? I bet you've spent many games over in Edmonton, huh?
Yeah, I've done a few, but not the new shiny Rogers Center there, though.
Yeah,
Brett. That
it is
was back in
shiny.
the old Northlands Coliseum, I believe it was called back then. And not that it wasn't, a nice arena, but I don't think it was anywhere near about what the National Lacrosse League is about to go in.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. And obviously that arena has that shininess, we've all seen it the last couple of years with the run the Oilers have made. But yeah, really pumped to be working with OEG on this event in January, and excited to certainly showcase Georgia and Calgary, and bringing lacrosse back to Edmonton. Hasn't been back there in a few years. I think the last time it was there was a championship that was won. So excited. Obviously, big sports town. A big time ownership group that is behind bringing it there, that we've been working with pretty closely really for over a year to kind of get to this point. And there's obviously a lot of things that need to happen to bring an event to an arena like that with a group like that. Just timing and a little bit of serendipity. You need a partner, need one of our teams. All of the above came together. So we're pumped to go to Edmonton in January.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. And I would say you said over a year. I almost feel like it's been longer than that. This idea of getting back into the city of Edmonton. 7 Canadian teams now, half the league, and I don't know, Brad. I think another lacrosse team in Edmonton would look pretty good. It sounds like ticket sales are going extremely well out of the gate.
Yeah, I think, the first week there was certainly, just like I'd say big events and other arenas, you see a lot of volume that first week. And then where you really got to do your heavy lifting, right, is after that. And then you'll get then another big bump as you kind of enter, we'll call it 2 weeks before. So right now we'll focus with the folks at OEG on, the next month, what that looks like. Really want to engage heavily with the youth lacrosse universe in Alberta and find creative and unique ways to bring them in, have some fun, and fill it up with a bunch of families and our endemic lacrosse universe in Alberta. And then we can certainly start working toward the non-endemics and a lot of big hockey fans, as you guys know, in that area. And how do we get them in the arena and get to experience our game? So the goal is to fill the place for sure.
Yeah, and I would say the sport of box lacrosse has been booming in Alberta and the Edmonton and surrounding area there as well. And there was a pretty loyal fan base prior to them leaving as well. And we'll probably just jump all over the place on you here, Brett. But while we're talking about Unboxed, I just saw this come across my timeline just yesterday, I believe, and it looks like the National Lacrosse League has partnered up with Winners Lax and TGH Cares. Some fall clinics. I mean, talk about a contrast here, going from white mud there in Edmonton to the palm trees and gators of Florida here, but some fall clinics coming up. You guys partnering up. Can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Well, I think it all kind of ties back to what you mentioned, which is just Unboxed initiative. And for us, it's really just driving youth participation everywhere. Listen, we've only got 14 teams. So that's 14 core markets where people can experience our sport live and kind of on a hands-on. So really our Unboxed is just going back to the basics, what we all used to live when we're growing up with sticks in hands and kind of gym class phys ed. And then now we're obviously kind of bridging out to clinics, and it's the like our Elevate 28 programming with a lot of our peers in the sport. How do we grow the footprint? And for us, selfishly, we want to grow our NLL footprint, and it doesn't matter if it's in Tampa or Edmonton or Montreal or St. Louis. It's which are obviously all of our activation markets and across North America. Is how do we continue to be that multinational sport that may not have home domain teams in all of these markets, but want to create connectivity with the youth and families and get the NLL brand out there.
With that, Brett, how is all that going? Because I feel like this is just kind of the start of the rollout where we're starting to see some boots on the ground in some of these cities. Is this the kind of like the push forward here? Is that we're going to start to see more of this in more of these cities is what I'm hearing.
Obviously there's a lot of hands-on approach here. It's not easy, right? We're building out the curriculum. We're actually putting the hard goods in these schools. There's an application process, and we want to lead by example here and introduce lacrosse to areas that may not have ever seen the sport or I'd say behind relative to the trajectory of its growth, while at the same time attacking demographics that maybe have had lacrosse for, I think about like a Baltimore, right, in Edmonton. Yeah. So we're really going in on two different levels. We feel it's very important for the overall growth and taking these communities and building brand identity and kind of unveiling our sport in these potentially non-franchise markets.
Well, you have seemed to have a good franchise in place for unveiling the sport in the Durham region, Brett, as there's a new Canadian team in Oshawa. Talk a little bit about the move up here to the Durham region and how this is going to look from the league perspective and what positives you hope to get out of it.
Yeah, well, obviously and you guys haven't been immune to it. We watch the games. Albany is great of a franchise ownership group as that has been, and obviously an impressive team. Made the finals 2 years ago. Just struggling to get that bandwidth in Albany. So had been looking for a great place to move, and we're in a place where heck, there's 7 million people in that greater Toronto area. Fourth biggest city, North America. You've got the whole, Golden Horseshoe with probably over 10 million people. And when you think about just the core fiber of that whole demographic we're talking about, lacrosse is very important to that demographic. So we're excited. We're excited to be in Oshawa. It's obviously an iconic venue. I think Lucas said you're from the area, so probably spend some time in there watching some hockey. It was fun for me to spend time there and really understand the lacrosse culture, going back a long time. And obviously from a New Yorker, I didn't know too much about the Green Gals, right? In the 60s, and you start learning about, I don't know, what they win, 6, 7, 8 Minto,
six.
six
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
Minto
Was it
Cups.
more? Yeah. It might have been more.
Might have been
7.
more.
Yeah.
So you've got, Minto Cups, probably a record, right? I
Yeah, it
think
is
still straight
yeah,
consecutive.
that's right. Yep. You're right.
Learned Bobby Orr played on the 64 Gale team. So there's just obviously a lot of history. And not only lacrosse, they have a Hall of Fame museum that's right in the bowels of that arena. So
Oh,
what was interesting, we'll quiz you there, how many different sports had members in that Hall of Fame or that museum? Give me a guess here, because it threw me off, and it
from
just shows.
man, from the Durham region in the Hall of Fame in the Durham region. This is all sports we're talking
All
here.
sports.
Okay, I'm gonna probably aim way high here, but I'll say 162.
Yeah, I led you to that, but it was you went too far, but that's okay.
Okay. Okay.
55 different sports. These are part of my learning, spending a couple days there. 55 sports represented, with obviously a number of lacrosse players. But yeah, I know those guys are kicking butt relative to preseason ticket sales, and excited to get those guys immersed in the market. So big
No,
move for us.
I should probably defend myself here. I thought it was people, not different sports. So maybe I misheard
Sorry,
there.
yeah,
But,
different sports.
okay, I was aiming
But
way
doesn't that
too
seem
high.
like a lot?
It
55
does
different
still
sports?
55. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot, lot of sports. They're bringing a good team there to Oshawa too, which is really going to help engage that fan base. And the other spot that has a good team, and they need to re-engage that fan base, and I think they're going to do that there in Rochester, Brett, especially with the new ownership from the Seneca Nation. And this is a pretty unique partnership here, and kind of, from what I can understand, developed very quickly and kind of out of happenstance a little bit, maybe a bit of luck involved as well. Brett, can you kind of walk us through how you got in touch with Seneca Nation to make the purchase of the Rochester Nighthawks and keep them there at Blue Cross Arena?
Yeah, I guess there is a bit of luck involved in a whole lot of things, and especially as we were needing a owner to come pretty quickly, because it was very much a priority for us to keep a team in Rochester. Near and dear to my heart. Just growing up a little east of there, those were the games I grew up. I remember back, heck, probably 97, 98.
Oh, glory days.
That is the first game I probably attended there, and it was Paul Gate on that team, and Bomberry and Jacobs and Paulus. Maybe even, I think Dan Teat might have been on that team as well.
I think he was.
And 3 of my high school teammates on that team back there. So it was my first professional team that I fouled. And then obviously, as you mentioned, they got a good team now with Connor and Dan leading those guys, and obviously a seasoned coach in Mike and Rylan and Ryan and McCumbee, like good team. So
Yeah.
important relative to its roots and the significance of that franchise in that area. So it was, we've been working pretty hard with the Pagula team for, over a year to really find the right fit, but keeping it in Rochester. So certainly a little bit of luck, but had reached out to the Seneca Nation, and, really started developing calls and a kind of a strategy of how that might work, and both from their leadership standpoint, and then their council, and then the Seneca Nation has their own kind of business arm. So it's It was a robust process that happened very quickly. So I'd say that the density of work all happened within a couple months, and just a phenomenal result, as you mentioned. Really hoping to kind of rejuvenate that franchise and what it means to that area and get the fans re-engaged. I think it's going to be pretty exciting, and it always helps that you got a strong team that's willing to engage in the community with a leadership group that we're really proud to have in the league.
Or staying on a positive note, I'll say, Brett, I know yourself, the league, and a lot of other players are gearing up towards lacrosse back in the Olympics in 2028. How's that working out league-wise, and talks that you've had with the IOC, if you have had any, and what is the latest going on right now as we're less than 3 years away?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I haven't thought much about the Olympics in the last 3 months. And now I probably won't think much about it for the next 3 weeks. It doesn't mean other folks on our team certainly aren't engaging in different ways. But yeah, the inclusion of lacrosse in the Olympics is an absolute positive, not only for us, but for all disciplines of the game. And we're super excited because we feel like sixes is the closest correlation of the product that we're all going to see in the Olympics. So for us, it's just kind of how do you look for those impactful ways to leverage the synergy within our growth initiatives and continue to tell the story. And while we certainly don't want to lose focus on our North American roots and our markets and all the things we're doing, I think we do need to definitively find ways to integrate the sixes lacrosse and how that ties to our game and find a way to build it into our strategy in building our fan base over the next couple of years. And it's going to be, it's super important. There's right now 100, maybe over 100 plus international governing bodies for lacrosse right now.
Yeah, it's right around there.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys were out there, but the Worlds were last year, I think maybe 25, 30 countries there. And so it's obviously growing. I mean, you're obviously the core markets we're used to. And then, you had Israel and Japan and Czech Republic and Ireland and Germany, right? So to me, these are all growth markets, people that are going to be interested in the Olympics and how do we engage with them, which was honestly some of the thought process. I wouldn't say the core, but some of the thought process when we were creating our NLL Plus product as well. So anyone in the entire world, right, can consume our games, and working with the different nations to get that in front of them over the next couple of years and amongst other strategic endeavors is going to be important for us.
Absolutely. As we're here with the commissioner of the National Lacrosse League, Brett Frood, and since you just brought up NLL Plus, that popped into my mind, Brett. Let's talk about that, because I think, when it initially launched, everybody was kind of like, okay, here's another platform. The National Lacrosse League has kind of bounced around as far as their home goes, where fans can go and watch games. And I think there's been some great stability over the last several years where people now know, okay, we're on TSN, we're on ESPN, and we're on NLL Plus, which is great. But it's been taken a step further now, Brett, with, the condensed games and the highlights. And then on top of that, finding a way to make the Minto Cup available and the Collegiate Box Lacrosse Championships and all these different entities of box lacrosse that are happening, maybe not while the season is going on, but this has really become a central hub for box lacrosse. And you tell me, I got to believe that was probably the initiative right out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every sports property really has its own unique direct-to-consumer strategy. And for us, obviously, pre-NLL Plus, we were relying on TSN and ESPN and those great partnerships to tell our story. But with this product, it was, I think, all about marrying a few strategic focal points for us. We need more scale. So we can't just rely on our TSN numbers and or ESPN. This allows us to go after scale. It allows us to create a distribution point for consumption that really is, as I just mentioned previously, kind of widespread, global. So, we have everyone in the world right now that can watch our games live. It's important, obviously, we've got to We've got to have opportunities to facilitate discoverability and consumption in a very easy manner. And we tried to accomplish that with NLL Plus. I mean, literally, you're just signing up, giving your email, and you're live. So there's very little, we'll call it bottlenecks in that process. And to your point, Jake, that you just mentioned, really want it to be kind of that one-stop shop where our fans not only can consume our live games, but it becomes kind of the video on demand. Did you miss a game? Did you want to grab the highlights? We are this year going to be integrating team content in there. So our teams will be able to put their video pieces, content pieces on there. And then, of course, as we look toward the future, is how do you integrate some enhanced technology and new kind of, we'll call it gameplay opportunities for our fans relative to that. And when I'm talking about things like the Manning cast and things we're used to seeing potentially on the NFL, and how do we integrate on that
pregame, little postgame,
shoulder programming. Yeah. So really the only thing at this point, the only games that we don't have on there live are our TSN game of the week, just because of our exclusivity there. So other than that, everything can be consumed. You think about just up in Canada, the 30 million plus individuals that live in the country, or maybe it's more, but let's say those with Wi-Fi and the ability to actually grab it, let's call it 30 million people. That to me is our target market. Yeah. Because why not? You certainly don't need to be an endemic or a born in lacrosse fan to love our sport once you see it.
Has there been any talks, Brett, of showcasing some youth box tournaments or events on NLL Plus? I know you said you have the College Box Series and the Minto Cup, but have you looked at the Junior NLL tournament or even US Boxla or any other youth events occurring? Has that been talked about?
Yeah, we had some this summer. We did have some this summer, but you should envision, again, this being the one-stop shop and us trying to figure out ways to have as expansive programming as possible. But it's got to be good production, right? It's got to be great streaming, great production. And I know we have a fickle fan base relative to their expectations on what that production looks like. We all probably lived it at one point or another this summer. And I'll leave it at that.
Some more than others, Brett. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't want to be in that conversation, right? And it doesn't matter. Certainly, we haven't been charging for this, so I think you get a little more flexibility when you're providing it to people gratis. But I don't really think of it that way, right? You want to be known. We want to be elite in everything we do. And that's both from the production and the distribution side. But with that is you kind of try to find that balance, because the more things you want to put on there, whether it's youth programming, whether it's, whatever the different summer genres are in Canada, and whether we're looking at Minto, those different things, we got to find that balance of volume, but doing it in the right way and making sure it presents itself well. And we've got great announcers and people are excited to come on and say, this was a kick-ass production.
Here with Brett Frood on Lax Class, the next major league. I want to know how you guys came up, or who came up with that slogan, and then tell me what that means to you, Brett.
Yeah, so Kurt Hunziker, who runs our commercial property, was the brain behind building kind of that slogan and punchline. And I think, and I love reading sometimes on social media when, let's say, we don't hit something like we should, whether it's our website is not functioning at an elite level, we don't have the app. And I love reading those that saying, you're not a major league. Well, we did say we wanted to be the next major league. And when I do think about major league properties, I am thinking about the ones that probably you are as well. And that's the NFL, and that's the NHL, and that's the NBA, and that's Major League Baseball. And we would be short-sighted to not want to be any of those, and what they represent to sports fans, and the volume and the commercial prowess they have, and the connection they have with their fans, and the intensity and passion of those connections. So when we think about the next major league, it's aspirational. But when I think of things that are aspirational, they're things you hope to achieve, and they're strategies you put in place to achieve them. It doesn't mean we're there yet by any means. Hell, we're entering our and this is crazy to think, 40th anniversary of the NLL next year.
Is that this year? That's this year?
Yeah, we'll be launching that later. 40th birthday. So, it is a little bit of a dichotomy thinking about that 40-year anniversary, and we want to be the next something, right? But it's true. So when I do think about it, you have to create, when you're running a business with a bunch of people internally, and we've got a great internal team, and we're working with all of our properties and all of our member teams, you have to create those goals. And those goals are far-reaching, and they're obviously across all of our verticals. We want our product to be better. We want more fans. We want more commercial success. We want a bigger TV deal. We want more licensees. We want more licensed product. We want a better retail front-facing site. I go down the list, and fortunately, unfortunately, it depends on there's 200 of them. So then you got to prioritize them. That's the world we live in each day. But
the other thing, sorry, Brett, I think the other thing you got to kind of keep in mind as a fan of the National Lacrosse League is that, like 40 years may seem like a long time for a professional sports league to be around, which is a good thing. But then you compare it to the four majors and how long those leagues have been around. This league is fairly still in its infancy.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I guess that would give us optimism that we're right around the corner from being the next major league. But you've said it, and you just look how quickly things can happen, right? And it's funny, I had a conversation, all the days are going together right now. It might have been this week, it might have been last week, but one of our owners, we were talking just through some strategic endeavors, and this individual said, I feel like our Caitlin Clark moment is right around the corner, and you have to be prepared for that. Right. So, and it's not just going to come, and someone's not just going to hand it to you. So you create your Caitlin Clark moments, and you have to have the infrastructure in place. You have to have the human capital there. You have to have the product. We can check that off the list. Right. To me, we always want to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was an interesting comment that was made, and
I kind of want to know who made it. I kind of want to know who made that comment, Brett.
Yeah, I'll let that individual's been on your show, so I'll let that individual say it. I don't want to steal their thunder, because they may use it, but it's interesting. In saying that, I didn't take it as you need one individual. I didn't take the Caitlin Clark moment as we're right around the corner from having this one individual that's going to change our league. I just took it as a moment, right, of the serendipity where you're prepared and something big happens. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's one individual. It's something that happens that changes our game. That's how I kind of think about, waking up in the morning, is just that preparation, and making sure we're strategically aligned with our member teams, and we all want the same thing. And just going back to the first thing we spoke about, which was the CBA. I felt throughout the process, you used the word contentious in your opening, and I actually didn't feel like our negotiation was contentious.
I mean, maybe that's just me having.
No, I had heard it. I had heard that word because you read, right, and things obviously are hyperbolized during stressful moments. But by nature, a CBA is going to be stressful, and it doesn't matter if it's, the workers outside a GM plant or a school or the National Lacrosse League. It's tenseful. The jobs are on the line, production is on the line, like everything we're all working for. So, just the one thing that I did feel throughout the process is the National Lacrosse League and its constituents, along with the NLLPA and their constituents, were aligned that we want what's best for this league and growth and trajectory, and to be equally prepared for that big moment. And that's why I never lost sight or lack confidence of it getting done, because I know both parties kind of were aligned with where we want to go in this league.
And just we'll get away from the CBA here in a sec, Brett, but I just we don't need to get into specifics. I think a lot of people have kind of seen the key points and the bullet points that have come out from this agreement. You tell me, but a good agreement at the end of the day, I don't know if both parties are happy or both parties should be unhappy. Where are both sides coming out on this? Do you feel like it was a good, even deal for both sides at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was good for both of us because we put a longer term deal in place. I think the things that were most important to the owners, we were able to achieve. And I think the things that were most important to the players, they were able to achieve. That's actually a rarity
Yeah.
if you think about it. And we were both obviously working toward meeting each other's goals. And it gets sticky and there's a path to getting there. But obviously some big structural changes to this CBA versus the legacy version. And with that comes just an immense amount of downstream details that you got to work out. And I don't think there's a general appreciation for what a CBA is and how many pages and how many words and how nuanced everything is. But yeah, I feel like both parties leave there being like, this has worked well. Each of us can say as we kind of put down at the beginning, here are our strategic goals with this, here's what we'd like to accomplish. Feel both parties were able to check those boxes. So some gain for both, and then like anything else, probably a little bit of pain here and there to make sure each of the parties were able to achieve their goals. So I think it turned out to be a good process.
I know we've been jumping all over the place on you, Brett, but I want to go back to the next major league slogan. And Jake asked you what it means to you, but I want to ask you more about how the league intends to help it become the next major league, whether that's expansion teams, partnerships with Lacrosse Canada or USA Lacrosse, or just etc. Whatever the case may be. What are some other things the league is looking to do to help it reach its next major league level?
Yeah, well, the
That's
list
a big
is
question.
long.
That's a big question right there, Brett.
It is. How long do we have?
Yeah, as long as you'll give us. As long as you'll give us.
I mean, we've spoke about a few of them, right? NLL Plus. So we just talk about overall discoverability and amplification to augment our TSN and ESPN, and just, expanding our eyeballs, and which will hopefully lead to a larger TV deal on that end. I think TV, and when I say TV, we'll just call it media, larger media deal. I don't know where it will be. Streaming, TV, phones, all of the above. We're working, and none of these are in order of priority because I'm spitballing here. So I'd say our licensing vertical needs to be more expansive. We just had a meeting, and I want to say we're up to 35 licensees, which this league has never seen before, which are tied to our new NLL Authentics program, which in thinking in the traditional sense. So when you think about NFL, NHL, when you guys are going and buying stuff, right, it has the hang tag and it says official product of the NHL. We now have that through our OPSEC, all official licensees producing high quality stuff. So you have to put infrastructure in place. You can't just roll these out. And then what comes next is our official rollout, which this one, you guys are going to have to wait for our official rollout of our new retail outlet that we're going to be working with closely relative to coming over the top. All of our teams obviously have their own online boutiques and their brick and mortar, and then we're going to have a new NLL shop. So licensing, a big deal. We spoke a bit about our Unboxed and our grassroots kind of programming across North America. We are certainly working and have made meaningful progress in the off season on the gambling/gaming vertical.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about this, Brad. Maybe you can expand on this a little bit. I got my Coolbet shirt on here right now. I know they like to put up the lacrosse odds quite frequently. How does that relationship work exactly? This is big business, having sports books affiliated or having exclusivity with certain leagues. How does that relationship work? And what are your hopes as far as that goes?
Yeah, well, I'll start off by just saying, at the end of the day, this is a great way to grow a fan base that has never consumed your sport, right? Because and it can be literally 50-cent bets on things that then turns into consumption because you want to watch. But what doesn't necessarily move the needle in a trajectory we want is just game odds. who's going to win this game, who's going to win the championship. What you really need is some of the individual gameplay, guys scoring goals. And,
The
we look
props.
at,
The
yeah, it's
props.
the prop bets. The challenge with our sport with the props is you really need a strong partner that is working through all of the algorithm and building out that piece of it using your data set. And as you can imagine, there aren't many of those entities in the world, by the way.
Yeah.
So there are literally probably less than 15 legitimate. These are the odds makers, right? They're the creating the odds. 15 in the entire world, legitimately, that are doing it, and it's a process. It's understanding the data and then building all of that back end. And as you can imagine, most of those across the globe want to focus their time on props that are where there's massive handles. That's where they're going to make their money. So, NFL, NBA, Premier League soccer. We have, in the off season, been fortunate enough through much diligence and I'd say an exhaustive process, been able to facilitate a great partnership, and we are now going to be producing those odds, which will then feed to the end operator. So now, whether it's the Coolbets, whether it's the MGMs, whether it's the DraftKings, FanDuels, we'll just look at it from the top level. These are the end operators that everyone in North America then can go on and, depending on their state and where they live, can engage firsthand with our games. So now, when they go to that opening game, well, I shouldn't say this because I do not believe we'll have it ready for opening weekend, the process, but let's just say we did. Now we show up in Oshawa for our opening game in Toronto, and someone wants to do the over under on CJ Kerr's first game. How many points is he going to have? The odds are 4 points, right? Like that, it's at 4 points over under all those. Now all of a sudden our games, as exciting as they already are, we have now just kind of, we'll call it, hyper accelerated the potential for a fan base that's never touched our sport before.
Yeah.
And so really excited where we're heading on that end. Now, all that being said, heading in, and you guys have probably watched the news over the last couple weeks. With that comes risk mitigation and making sure we, from a fiduciary level, are now putting all of the guardrails and everything in place to mitigate liability and make sure we're prepared. And there's a massive education, and you got to do all of this responsibly and have all of those checks and balances in there. So, but excited directionally where we're going on this end.
Do you get like a percentage of how much money people are betting on the league or a team, or how does the return work as far as getting into a relationship with a sports book?
Yeah, great. Good question. And there's several monetization kind of levels to that. So at its core, the entity building the odds for any of those end operators to get those odds or purchase those odds, it basically is a percent of the handle. So for every bettor that makes a bet, the odds company receives X percent. And it's usually pennies on the dollar, right? But it's a volume game.
That adds up over
It
thousands
does.
and thousands.
And then we, the league, have a relationship with that entity where we share in that, right?
Okay.
So from a cycle standpoint, the answer is yes. Anyone betting on the games, it will trickle down to the league via those relationships. So that's one monetization.
Gotcha.
And then what it also allows us to do is meaningfully and authentically now chase partnerships and sponsorships. So it kind of opens the commercial door. And you think about what you've seen historically with like a Coolbet, a FanDuel, DraftKings, right? They're sponsors of leagues because they're showcasing their events. They have them. There's a lot of props. There's the ability to bet. So it opens up those doors, both from a sponsorship and then just pure digital advertising standpoint. So I just overall commercially, it really gives you three distinct monetization opportunities that we haven't had before.
Well, that's great. I know people are going to be thrilled about that. And because you have all of these in place now and, you're still working to get them solidified, and you said that, there's going to be something along merchandise and apparel rolling out soon that the league is doing. Could this all factor in, Brett, to potentially the league going to a full-time league, going into the summer, seeing more games being played? Could all of this eventually become a reality in, getting a 20-game season in?
Jake, you got young Lucas trained, right? We got him. You got him going from these verticals to jumping the shark quickly. I can appreciate your mentorship. You're
Thank you
providing
very
it.
much. Thank you very much.
That's good. No, joking aside, for sure, it's imperative for us, the league, to continue the evolution of our business model. And our business model honestly hasn't changed all that much in 40 years. And maybe we talk about, those big moments, what's going to be the paradigm shifter here? Yeah, we certainly look at volume of games, and the concept of full time is being that trigger that potentially kind of shifts that paradigm for us. In a perfect world, and I don't know that I would say there's consensus across every team owner or everybody, because you kind of got to see how it works, do the analytics and run the discounted cash flows and really understand it. So I was careful. I just said in a perfect world. I should say in a potential perfect world, because it's something we obviously got to dig into with all of our member teams. Is I think there could be a world where there's 30 plus games, right, per year, and you're now talking about enhanced assets, which typically should correlate to enhanced revenues. It could help with managing the team P&Ls in a more EBITDA friendly manner. And if you could get these guys, these athletes in market full time for 6-7 months, boots on the ground, really working hard to work with the team and build that sense of community where we're not as much traveling, and I know some of these teams have more guys than others, but really gives you the opportunity over 6, 7, 8 month span to go all in. Of course, the pay would be, would be commensurate with the amount of time players would be able to make more money. But for all that to happen, obviously, you've got to have a good, strong number of teams to absorb that schedule and be willing and passionate participants in kind of that growth trajectory. And with that comes a whole lot of research. It's not as easy as let's just add 18 games, right? Remember, we share venues depending on where we are in some of the busiest sports properties in the world relative to the venues. And it is not as easy as one would think putting together even our 18 game schedule. So when you think about full time and kind of that shift, it truly is a much different approach. And you're going to be playing midweek games. It's unrealistic to think we're all of a sudden going to increase our games and be playing back to back Friday, Saturday. We just don't have the inventory at the arena's overall capacity. Yep.
That's why when EBITDA, I'm going to go look up EBITDA after this interview here, Brett, because I have no idea what that word means. But it makes me laugh. The people, well, it does make me laugh, but the people that were going, if they cancel a couple of games in week 1 or week 2, if the CBA doesn't get done, they can just backload it at the end of, in a bye week, this and that. The reason that there are all these bye weeks and the schedule is a little bit funky to start the year is because the availability is just not available. So people are going, oh yeah, just if they miss a couple of games, they can plug them back in. No, it doesn't work like that in the National Lacrosse League. And I know it's been actively kicked around, Brett, that the idea of going to more games, but the idea of maybe flipping the calendar here a little bit, where you're not competing with the NHL and NBA on a weekly basis, and maybe going at a time where you're not competing against all these other sports, and maybe the arena availability is a whole lot easier and better. And you said it, 40 years, kind of been doing the same thing here. Maybe it's time, Brett, to give that switch a flip and just see if it works, doing it a different way.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be doing my job if we didn't explore all of them. and even the ones that the traditionalists might say is crazy. So you're absolutely right. And whether it's flipping schedules, whether it's adding games, whether it's going midweek, proverbial treading water is really challenging. And I don't know that we would be doing ourselves justice in obtaining what we hope to be the next major league status if we weren't exploring every single thing and kind of turning over every rock that might give us more opportunity than we've had historically. I know that there'll be naysayers and there'll be people that can be glass half full on probably all of those, right? But you have to kind of take the approach that any one of these might be the thing that changes the league and the future. And it's incumbent on me to work with our member teams and exhaustively kind of do the diligence and see what might be the next strategic endeavor that can change our trajectory.
Caitlin Clark moment.
Well, that's what I said, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be an individual. It could be any one of these. And there's going to be pros and cons any way you look at anything. But I don't know that just doing the same, it goes back to kind of the whole definition of insanity. We certainly don't want to be doing that year over year over year over year, because we'll just end up in the same spot.
I know we've kept you here a while, but I still got a few things I'd like to ask you if you got the time. But one of them, you just mentioned individuals, independent reporters. Time to time I get some information that comes across my way, and I think to myself, is this the best course of action for me to kind of put this out in the ether, or do I just sit on this and maybe keep my job, sort of thing? But now we're starting to see some guys that are not affiliated with any teams or the league for that matter, kind of starting to break news. I don't know, how they're obtaining it, Brett, whether it's coming from inside the league office or from others, but independent reporters. We've seen, you got your Adam Schefters and your Wojnarowskis and all, Elliot Friedman and all these guys around in these different leagues. Where do you come out on independent reporters, maybe breaking news before teams do?
Well, I'll answer this a couple ways. I think our league can use as many reporters, news, individuals interested in growing our league as possible. So I honestly love all those individuals that are passionate enough to spend their time, and in many cases, and in most cases, potentially their own money, and endeavor to grow our sport. And honestly, there's a number of them, and they're very passionate and they love our league. So quite honestly, the more the merrier, because we are not on the front page of ESPN every day, or the major sports networks, right? And I guess when the season starts, we make the top 10 almost every night.
Sure.
But we're not there yet. So I would be remiss to say, even think anything otherwise. I think these
teams get upset, Brett. The teams get they can get upset when.
Yeah, here's why they get upset. Because loose lips sink ships, right? So
yes.
While I said I honestly don't have a problem with these individuals releasing news as long as it's valid and it's real news that they have obtained through their contacts. That's how the media world works. Okay. The problem I have is how they receive it, and sometimes receiving it before they should receive it. That is my issue. And that isn't with them, by the way. It is with individuals within our own constituency, and I don't know who they are or how or what incentive they would have to be releasing information before we, the league, thinks it's pertinent to be out there. But to me, that isn't the fault of individuals that are obtaining it and trying to grow our league. Now, if it was erroneous, and in some cases it is, then I do have issues.
Well, the Buffalo rule is maybe where we can pin an example here, Brett, where, somebody leaked out a rule change. I believe it was Mike Carvallis from Daily Dive said, this rule is now a thing in the National Lacrosse League about a player blocking shots in the crease. And I heard you on with Pat and Teddy on Off the Crossbar say, well, not yet. So, there's an example where somebody's putting something out saying this is happening or this has happened where it hasn't quite happened yet.
It hasn't happened, but to be fair to Michael, who I think you mentioned was the one who had it, who knows the context of how he received it, right? And I guess that's where you got to have faith in your source, and how it was presented. So it may have been presented as if it was final, and I certainly was forwarded the actual verbiage, which was what was being presented to the board, which incidentally, subsequently has been approved. But yeah, so that shouldn't have been out there, to be honest with you, right? We were going through that process. That was something we were working through with the competition committee, and then ends up out in the ethers before we were completing it, before we exhaustively vetted it, had conversations, and you vote on these things. So I get frustrated and quite frankly pissed off when I read stuff out there that we, the league, either haven't fully vetted and even come to a decision on, and or are preparing to make an announcement and have a fully exhaustive strategic plan around it, and then it's out there. And you kind of lose the luster. But again, I don't necessarily fault individuals, like yourself or other, people that are working hard on behalf of our league to grow it. As long as the information's correct, it's more on our internal side, and honestly, people keeping their mouths shut.
Okay. I wondered, right? Because it's coming from somewhere and somebody, and I know, like, I've gotten myself in hot water more than a time or two, and I've kind of learned my lesson on that. But I kind of wonder where you came out with some of these other guys putting stuff out there. So that makes sense, though. It's not, if you're going to get handed some information and put it out there, it's not your fault. So I really like the way you kind of phrase that. Lucas is an aspiring young official, Brett, and I believe he's got a question regarding the referees.
Yeah, I do for you, Brett. It's pretty simple. I know the officials were in bargaining talks on their new CBA. Is their new agreement in place? Is it signed, sealed, delivered? Are talks still underway? What's the latest on going on there with the officials?
Yeah, I'm not prepared to go on record on that. I'll be stealing Brian Lemon's luster and working through those
loose
things.
Lips sink ships, Brett. Loose lips.
They do, so I can't be that guy. But no, I will say, because you're an aspiring official, great relationship with our guys. And while I know, like any other official in any other sport, those guys take a beating sometimes, and they're, as prepared as any group of officials I've come across in the various sports I've been involved in. And the amount of work Brian and the team put together every week. This is pre-game, post-game, to prepare these men and women for the weekend, is phenomenal. So definitely looking for our new, we'll say it, our new shift of officials to come in and make sure we continue to have depth, and able to grow the troops in that way.
Last one here for you, Brad. We've kept you an hour, and I figure that's way past what we probably should have kept you here. So we appreciate your time. I know our listeners do as well. And I still got like 5 things, so I'm trying to pick one here. But I will ask you this, from your time.
I'll give you listen, we don't jump on very often. I don't do these very often, just there's not enough time in the day, but there's a number of individuals that are important to the sport that continue to grow it. So ask me a few questions. We're good.
Okay. The future of the Philadelphia Wings. There's been rumors swirling around that the team is kind of being propped up right now. I have heard, speaking of hearing things, that there has been positive developments in that regard. I don't know whether that means a new potential owner in Philadelphia, or maybe a new city to relocate to, or what the situation is there, Brett. But I don't know if you can give us and our listeners and the NLL fans alike a bit of an update on the Philadelphia Wings, because that's one of the blue blood franchises of our league, one of the kind of the founding pillars, and we got a lot of passionate Philadelphia Wings fans that listen to the podcast here. So what can you tell us?
Honestly, a lot of rumors there. And I put Philly into the category of many of our teams. We are working our butts off to stabilize the league and provide these teams that aren't necessarily financially as successful as they should be opportunities. I think with Philly specifically, as you mentioned it, flagship team, right? They're just intertwined into our league's history. They may have the single game attendance record now that I think about it, right? So you go back to heck, late 80s. The Wings have fielded teams one way or the other, maybe a hiatus for a couple years in between there. Probably have more Hall of Fame members than anybody. And I think about I'm trying to think who's in their rafters right now. Probably Marichek.
Oh, Tommy, Tom
Burt,
Gate,
Dallas,
Elliott, of
Finneran,
course,
right?
yeah.
Like these are legends. So an important franchise to us. I'd say probably our biggest challenge in Philadelphia is Wells Fargo Arena is I believe the second busiest arena in North America to Madison Square Garden. So you guys can look at the schedule this year, just when the games are. It puts a strain on Mark Zamrun and who is the president of that franchise, because it's hard to get that consistency, right? When you got Sunday, you don't know if you're going Friday or Saturday or Sunday, and they do a damn good job balancing the fact that you're jumping in after a Flyers game, maybe going before a Villanova basketball game, and
Sixers, Eagles. It's all going on in that one pocket too, right, Brett?
It's all right there. Yeah, we had to move a game last year during the playoffs because of the parking lot for the Eagles, right? It was the Eagles playoff game. So there's just a tremendous amount of stress on that. We'll call it that venue ecosystem, which has, it causes headaches for us. It does not diminish how hard that organization is working, how passionate those fans are, and our desire from a league to obviously continue having a team into Philly into perpetuity. So we'll keep working hard. We ideally we pack that place, right? Just like anything else. Winning helps. And when I say winning, I'm not just talking the scoreboard, right? Corporate partnerships, fans showing up in waves, it all helps. And we're just like any of our other franchises. We're working hard to change the business model. And when I mentioned the word EBITDA, probably the easier way to say it is we want profitable entities. We want consistent profitable entities across the league. And candidly, we don't, not all of our teams are making money. I think that has been clear. I know Jamie was on here and kind of talked through the business model, and that's true. So we're working hard in Philly, but we're working hard in 13 other markets as well. And we want all of them to strive to be great and exist sustainably for the long haul.
Well, something that used to exist, Brett, and I know many of the old timers, such as yourself and Jake a little bit, are going to get pretty hyped up when I ask you this question. What's the talk around potentially an all-star game or weekend coming back? And provide us an update, if you can, on what the latest is surrounding the NLL Hall of Fame.
Oh, all-stars in the Hall of Fame. That works well.
So I'll be fully transparent on this one. I don't the All-Star game, at least short term, hasn't been on our radar. When I say radar, it's not going to happen this year. We're focusing obviously on the Edmonton game with our 16 full-time employees here at the league, or maybe we have 17. It's just the bandwidth. It's really obviously when you're as vertically integrated as we are and wearing 17 hats in any given day. As much as I'd like to tackle an all-star game, it's just not at the forefront of our priorities. The other concern I have with an all-star game, and maybe you guys don't share this sentiment, so I can understand why if not. I watch some of these other all-star games. Like there's a reason why the Pro Bowl in football kind of pissed away, and I watched the NBA All-Star game and I can't even watch it. NHL, they've done a good job, I think, with skills contests and such, but our sport, I mean,
physical.
You got exactly, but it's such an important aspect of our game. It is really hard to fake it, right? Like to have a competitive NLL game, and these guys are competitors, you have to go all in. It's just it's just really hard for me to let it translate any other way. And an all-star game, knowing how these guys will want to play it, because there's only one way to do it. It does open up ourselves for injury and things that probably downstream don't make sense for the rest of the season. And listen, this is my opinion. This isn't the league's opinion. It may not be the opinion of players or owners, but and that's not necessarily why it's not a priority. It's just another anecdote for me when I think about the All-Star game. Relative to Hall of Fame, we actually, I have on my to-do list sitting on my notepad right here is to sit down with Mike French in the very near term as we kind of plot out these next 9 to 12 months and this next edition of our Hall of Fame class and how we get there, the process, and then when we execute that next induction. So Hall of Fame, unlike the All-Star game, would fall squarely in our priority bucket and one we'll be tackling for the 2026 year.
That's good to hear.
My final question for you, Brett, before I let Jake wrap things up, is what has the response been at the league level as well as the team level, if you know, with the unified standings being in place versus the old school East-West division alignments?
Depends on the weekend and how far somebody's traveling. No, it's been good.
Brad, I call this the most significant move this league has made maybe ever.
Well, thank you. I'd like to think that it's been successful. I think it has made our road to the playoffs and our march to May and every game more impactful. I think it's more exciting. I think it's great for the fans that get to see different teams and players come in and maybe eliminate some of the monotony of playing a team 3 times, 4 times. So it's obviously exciting, and I think it makes every weekend a little different. And we've been able to see some new rivalries be created that maybe wouldn't have organically been created otherwise. So, all of it's good. I'll say the one drawback is flights in general for all of us that jump on planes here and there. Over the last 2 years, flight prices have gone up like 30%. This is obviously nothing to do with unified standings, but, when we're going to places like, Halifax and, Vancouver, San Diego, and moving all over, that in combination with flight costs that are just generally up, just in inflationary reasons, specifically in that industry, we continue to, monitor just the impact on expenses on our teams. So if I could pencil in any kind of, we'll call it potential drawback, is that we want to keep our finger on the pulse of. So we're very conscious of that, and just kind of as we're working through the scheduling in different times of the year and trying to mitigate that. And otherwise, I think it's made our league just as very interesting and games compelling and different teams. We watching a San Diego Halifax game that maybe wouldn't happen for 3 years. Or something like that. You're able to, aside from the playoffs, watch the best play the best every weekend and get that rotation. So it's been good.
Yeah, you got to have Lyle Thompson or Jeff Teed or Matt Vince come through your arena at least once every 2 years. Brad, I know, obviously getting a media rights deal for a big television contract is the ultimate goal. I know you guys are working hard on getting an app for the National Lacrosse League as well. I want people to know that. I heard you mention that on OTCB with Teddy and Pat, and I know a lot of people clamoring for an app. So I will just tell people that is in the works. That's a priority for you guys. It's something you want to have happen. So I'll end off with this, Brad. And again, we really appreciate your time. Since you've joined the National Lacrosse League, what have you learned about the league, and what have you learned about yourself in that time?
Geez, that's a closer, huh?
That's why I saved it for last.
All right. Well, I'll start with what have I learned about myself. So I will say this. I believe I have gained experience and skill sets that maybe I think I previously possessed and I didn't. And where I'm going to specifically talk about is for years, 2 decades, worked fairly autonomously, had, a couple hundred employees, reported to one individual for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And the word consensus building, probably, while I would hear it and say, oh yeah, I'm a consensus builder, I never really had to dig in on a daily basis. And I would call the political consensus building realm. And within this league, right, where I report to 14 team owners every day. And
they're all different.
And while on the surface, everyone may say, well, they probably all are aligned and all have the same goals. I will say they have a couple of the goals that are aligned, and that is growing the league, building a profitable enterprise, expanding enterprise value, winning, competing at the highest level. But to get to all those places, there's different ways you can get to each of those. And that's where alignment is sometimes challenging. Even we spoke about the CBA. People have different interests, even in what the CBA looks like and what is most important to them. So I will say, while I thought I came into this deal as a seasoned, we'll call it consensus builder, and someone adept at political prowess, learned pretty quickly and over the first few years that I have to sit down and do a lot more listening than I ever expected. And leadership and teamwork is really all about communicating and understanding that people have a lot of different ideas, a lot of different ways to get where they want to go. And it's my job to figure out those checks and balances and merge all of the above and then create consensus. Not a very easy task, and one that I'm still learning, quite honestly, every day. And thankful that I've had this experience, but I've got a long way to go to be truly successful at taking care of and achieving the goals of all of our member teams. So that's on the personal side. Your question was, what have I learned about the league? I'd say. Yeah, we probably spoke a bit about it. I'd say just what I wrestle with every day, and I'd say my dilemma waking up, is how you can have such a damn good sport and one that's so compelling and physical and fast, and every adjective I could come up with of something me as a avid sports consumer. And I know this may come across biased, but I'll watch almost every sport in the world, right? I genuinely would rather watch one of our NLL games than anything else that this planet can present me. And what I struggle with and what I've learned is how challenging it is to translate this wonderful product that we just described, this sport, to commercial success and this quantum leap to the next major league. It's what I wake up thinking about. It's what I go to bed thinking about. And unfortunately, more times than not, it's what I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about. And it drives me goddamn insane that we've got. It really does. Like I am not joking.
Why doesn't every sports fan love this league and this sport? That's the question, right? And how do we make them? How do we make them? It is,
and that struggle of conversion, and we it's those things. Lucas asked the question, "What are we doing to get there?" And it's the discoverability, and it's what we're doing commercially, and all those things to get the eyeballs on it. And I'm just some days at a loss of I don't want to say the lack of, because that's not the right word. I'll just say the inability to move as quickly as I would like. And we've just got a tireless group internally. I know in member teams, we talk about the media, like whether it's the ESPNs, the TSNs, or the independents you mentioned that are out there digging every day and doing everything they can to propagate our league. We're just trying to hit people over the head with volume and content and clips, and we're making headway. So don't get me wrong. That this isn't a glass. This isn't glass halfway kind of commentary. I'm not being negative. It's just you asked me a question. I want.
It's frustrating that it doesn't happen faster.
I want faster with more inertia, just kind of knocking people out of the way as we kind of climb that ladder. that's what I've learned probably certainly about the league and myself is just we have so much potential and we all want to get there pretty quickly.
Well, Brett, I've learned we got the right man in charge to make that happen. I really appreciate your time here on Lax Class and look forward to another fantastic, our 40th National Lacrosse League season. Can't believe it. Hopefully we cross paths either in Vegas or Vancouver, Brett. We keep missing each other somehow, but hopefully this is the year.
Well, if all goes according to plan, I will be at the Vegas at Vancouver game.
Okay.
In I want to say probably mid-December. So maybe we'll see you there.
Gonna find you. Thanks for doing it. Get some rest, but keep working hard, man. Thanks for doing this.
All right, guys. Thank you.
There you go. There he is, the commissioner of the National Lacrosse League. And Lucas, that might have just set a record for our longest interview in 363 episodes. And man, a lot of information in there, a lot of good information, and we really appreciate Brett spending the better part of an hour and 20 minutes with us, breaking it all down. That was quite the conversation right there with the big boss.
No doubt. He is a man of knowledge, a man of power, and he certainly had a lot to say about the league, its landscape, the future of it, all partnerships, gambling. There was a whole host of topics that he covered, and my first time meeting him, great conversation, and hopefully there's many more in our future as the season is almost upon us.
All right, let's not waste any more time here. Let's kick it to halftime. Still quarter 3 and quarter 4 to come here on Lax Class. Stay classified.
Associated Labels and Packaging, a fun family company that offers premium quality labels and packaging with unparalleled service. With 40 years of experience, an extensive product catalog, and an ever-growing fleet of equipment, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
This is Craig Rudzinski, the voice of the Rochester Nighthawks. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified.
Halftime is over. Quarter 3 is now underway, and you just heard from Associated Labels and Packaging. Where did the San Francisco 49ers just play? They're in New York? Were they in New York? Where were they, Lucas? You got it?
Yep, I do. They were in the Big Apple taking on the Giants. They got the victory. So all the 49ers fans, they got it.
There you go.
Got.
Yeah. Two T's. Well, that's coming up next quarter. AssociatedLP.com. Associated Labels and Packaging. Best in the business when it comes to labels and packages. Quarter number 3. Give us a follow at Lax Class Pod on the X. I'm still working on the algorithm a little bit. Like, go like who to follow. When you click that tab, it's all like field lacrosse, like colleges, that outdoor league team, the players and stuff. I'm trying to just like go box lacrosse specific. So I scroll, oh, there's one, and I click on it, and still got to get the algorithm going a little bit. Give Lax Class Podcast a follow on the X, Lacrosse Classified at Instagram, Facebook page as well. And you're going to want to do that because that is where the link to Who Ya Gott is, which we will discuss in quarter number 4. But give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe, review, 5 stars, share the podcast, follow us on social media, and we'd appreciate it if you did all of that. All right, here we go. Time for the Lax Class Lock of the Week.
Lock of the week.
Hey, let's lock and load it!
I am going to be a very rich dude.
Ooh, that's a big lock, all right.
Oh, Lax Class Lock of the Week brought to you by Coolbet Canada. I was hot for a while there on Coolbet, Lucas. The account was fully juiced up. I was just riding like a hot lava wave of winning for quite. And now, over the last few days, things have taken a dismal turn. And the account is starting to dwindle once again. So I need to get back on the win streak. But you
got to start betting on disc golf again. That's where you thrive.
The season's over. Maybe that's why. The season is over. But the Lax Class Lock of the Week last week did not last very long either. 1 for 4, maybe. 0 for 4, maybe. It wasn't good. So we're going to turn our attention to lacrosse this week, thankfully. And we can't lose this week because it's going to be a futures bet. So we won't know whether we win or we lose this parlay until the last week of the regular season. Going to go with win totals here, which are up on Coolbet, along with some other things. I think they posted up the odds for the Canadian teams in the National Lacrosse League, the best odds for who's going to finish the best out of all the Canadian teams. Vancouver at the top of that list, Saskatchewan right behind them. I think Calgary down at the bottom of those 7 teams. So you can check that out. But win totals are up. We have decided to select 3 of those win totals, Lucas, and here's how it's going to go. We are taking the Toronto Rock, who have 8.5 wins listed as their win total. I had it. There we go. I got it back here. Toronto Rock at 8.5. We're going over there. We're going to Oshawa. Also, well, this number was at 9. I think we dropped it down to 8.5, so improve the win odds there a little bit. But the Oshawa Firewolves, I think they're going to have a big bounce back year, as they do Toronto. So over for those 2 guys in the Firewolves and the Rock, 8.5. And then you got the San Diego Seals. We're going to take the under on 9.5 wins for the San Diego Seals because, honestly, I don't think they got what they were looking for in free agency this summer, or this summer, I guess you could say. And if they lose their starting goaltender, that's a tough road to overhaul. They did make a couple of changes there, but this is going to be a real competitive season. 9.5 wins. We got to take 1 under, and we're going to go with San Diego. I don't necessarily love it, Lucas, but it's what we're doing. It's going to get you a plus 500. Over for Toronto and Oshawa, under for San Diego, plus 500 exclusively at Coolbet Lacrosse Classified Parlay.
I think the Rock, everybody's saying it. It's cliche for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. I'll state the obvious. They had the 3 overall picks this year in this year's draft. They boosted their lineup.
Only getting 2 in their lineup, though, right? But then they get English from the year before. So it's kind of like they get 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But no, Rock are going to have a bounce back year. They should. They got back Rosie. So they know they got their starter in between the pipes. Not to say Holochuk was bad, but they know they got Rosie.
Just gotta stay healthy. Just gotta stay healthy.
Yeah, not all it is. That's all it is for them.
Mind
but then you look on the flip side for the Firewolves, youngest team in the league, had a bit of a down year. I think them relocating to a new city is going to be big for them. I know all Durham lacrosse fans are looking forward to it, myself included. And then you're right with the Seals. It's going to be tough. I mean, they made that deal with Ottawa. They no longer have Rob Hellier, but they got Cam Dunkerley, who we know has starting goaltender experience, and they have Tyden Redlick. So if they do lose Big Rig for a little bit, it's going to be iffy on what happens there goaltending.
Got Corey Small. Everybody's a year older. I mean, it could go either way. I mean, these guys we heard Brett talk about it. These guys that put these numbers together are no dummies. There's a lot of research and algorithms and all the rest of it that go
They're kind of the same thing as the Rock last year, though, Jake. Seals just got to stay healthy.
Yeah,
they were right. Riddled. They were bit by the injury bug big last year.
Huge. Speaking of, Toronto going into training camp with 3 rights, they're definitely going to play 3 rights for most nights, but that's what they're going in to camp with.
Yeah.
Talk about guaranteed spots. You got Bushi, Dowick, and one of those 3 is Challen Rogers, who is probably their best D-tranny player when he's going out the back 8. So some questions need to be answered there in Toronto. I don't think they can go a whole season like that. They got to have something in the works where somebody's going to join the Toronto Rock at some point. By the way, those Toronto Rock owned by Jamie Dowick. I had to text Dowick on the weekend and just be like, the Denver Broncos might be the ugliest 7-2 team in the National Football League I have ever seen. How is that team 7-2 right now? It's unbelievable the way they just find ways to win games in the fourth quarter, including scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter to beat the New York Giants a couple of weeks ago. Anyways, okay, so there you go. Toronto, Oshawa, San Diego, plus 500. Go to Coolbet, coolbet.com, sign up. Put in the bonus code Lax Class, get free money. They'll match your first time deposit up to $200. And then they got the cool things going on there as well at Coolbet where like NHL, you got a bonus. You can pick 3 or you can pick one of the 3. You can pick like parlay insurance. You can get a win boost, or if you bet $30, then you get a free $15 bet to spend anywhere in the sportsbook. They got this going for hockey, for basketball, baseball, football, all the sports. I don't know if they do it for lacrosse. They probably should. But they're going to have all the odds up there all season long. And we're back into lacrosse season here. So maybe next week we'll do another futures. Maybe we'll do like some player props, like point totals or goal totals or something like that. Then we can't lose on back-to-back weeks either, which has not been something we've been able to say for quite some time.
Yeah.
Lock it in, and we will move our way into the fourth and final quarter of this episode. Thanks for hanging with us. Lacrosse Classified is back after this.
This is Jackson Webster, and you're listening to Lax Class.
It's time once again to play your favorite podcast game. Who you got? I think we forgot to sing last week. Tell me, who are you? Who you got is back for another year. I've been posting this up on the social medias for the last little bit here, Lucas, and we've had a great response out of the gate. Send out the mass email. We've been putting it on social media, and people are signing up. All the usual suspects from yesteryear are there, and I see a lot of new names on the old Who You Got leaderboard as well. And I'm scrolling down. There is a good contingent up. But listen, do not delay here. I know the first game is not until the 28th of November. But I've been telling Danny this. I'm going to tell everybody else this listening to this podcast. Do not put this in the back burner here. Just when you're listening to this, go to our Instagram, go to our X account, hit the link on the bio, check your email if you were in last year, and just get signed up. Just get in there. You can even make your picks for week 1 already if you want to do that.
Well, Funky's way ahead of you, Jake. I don't mean to cut you off, but as soon as I told her about it, she signed up.
Don't delay, get signed up, and then you're in there. Then you know, tell your friends, share the link, get more people into Who You Got. And I know my man Jimmer, who just retired from his used car center job just days ago. He's vowed that he's going to win at least 1 week this week or this year of Who You Got. So we'll see if Jimmer can get it done. See if you can get it done. Get in there. Who You Got now. If you haven't played Who You Got before, I'll just tell you this. It is a confidence pool. And that means that there's going to be a number attached to each game. And I can't even believe this, but there is a week this week because how do I know this? Well, because the first number that you're going to put down is 10. And that is because we have a 10-game slate or this year in the National Lacrosse League. I don't know what week it is, but there is a week this season where we have 10 National Lacrosse League games in the same. Unbelievable. So when you're making your picks, you're looking at the list. Week 1, we got 4 games here. The highest number is going to be 10. You want to put that, you want to pick the team they think is going to win the game. And you want to put the 10 beside the game that you were most confident in. And then 9 in the game that you were second most confident in. And down the list you go. So it'll only go down to 7 in week 1. Week 2, how many games we got in week 2? We got just 2 games in week 2. So just 10 and 9 in week 2. And then you go to week 3, things get going a little bit more. And you got like 6 or 7 games. So the last number in that week will go down to 4. Hopefully you get the idea of what I'm putting down here. Pick the team. You put the highest confidence number beside the game that you're the most confident in, and down you go. Tiebreaker. Do not forget your tiebreaker. More often than not, more than one person will be at the top of the leaderboard. Whether they go perfect that week or whether they miss one, they're going to be in a tie with somebody. Then it comes down to the tiebreaker and predicting the total amount of goals scored in the final game of that week. So this coming week 1 would be Vancouver, Colorado. That's the game you want to pick the tiebreaker for. Little tip for you Who Ya Gotters. Just go on Coolbet, look at that game, see where the odds makers are putting the total of that game, and that's probably right around where you want to put your tiebreaker. Save and apply. And then you're done. That's all you got to do. Get signed up, have some fun, win some prizes. I did get confirmation that Mohawk Lacrosse is back on board. Well, he said it shouldn't be a problem. I'm just going to go out and say it. It's not going to be a problem. Grand prize, Kitsilano Greasers got one last year. Handcrafted wooden hickory lacrosse stick, courtesy of Mohawk Lacrosse for the grand prize winner. Coolbet weekly prizes, Mohawk Lacrosse, grand prize, handcrafted woody on the line for the grand champ.
Can't wait.
All right, we're just weeks away. That's going to do it for 363. We have just 4 teams remaining to get in for our season previews in 2 weeks to do it. So Kurt Steyers and hopefully Paul Day next week. Willie Malosky coming up after that. And then away we go into the regular season. We got to get out of here now, though. I want to thank the Commissioner of the National Lacrosse League, Brett Frood, for coming on the program. I want to thank Associated Labels and Packaging, Rycor Construction, Edge Dynamics, the Goalie Factory, Coolbet, and Mohawk Lacrosse for sponsoring the podcast, and to you, the classmate, for listening each and every week here to Lacrosse Classified. We'll talk to you for Lax Class 364 a week from now, but we're out of here. For Lucas Arger, I've been Jake Elliott, and for the fastest game on 2 feet, and for the creator, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay classified.